Hey, Streetwalkers. I just wanted to pop in here and introduce a quick message from friend of Fascination Street, Vinny Tortorich. Take it away, Vinny.
Hi, guys. As you know, Fat, a documentary, is in the can, as they like to say in Hollywood. But hey, now we need distribution, and a lot of big companies are considering our movie. That's great. One of those companies happens to be Netflix. They have the movie right now. But you know what? We can help it along. As it turns out, Netflix has a place you can go to request TV shows and movies. So go do that. Go to help.netflix.com and let them know you want to see Fat, a documentary. Once again, go to help.netflix.com and let them know you want to see our movie, Fat, a documentary. Thanks.
Once again, guys, go to help.netflix.com and on the far right, under Quick Links, click on Request TV Show or Movie, and then type in Fat, a documentary. Let's all get behind this documentary and help it get one step closer to everybody being able to see it. Thanks, Streetwalkers. And now, on with the show. I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Mike August. Mike August is the manager for Adam Carolla. He's also the CFO of Carolla Digital, Adam's podcast production company. In this episode, we talk about why Mike decided to be a lawyer, what some of his jobs were fresh out of law school, and how he got into the entertainment business. We also talk about Mike's time as an agent for William Morris, and then transitioning from agent to manager. And of course, we talk about getting the Adam Carolla podcast started and the giant party that they're throwing next month at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the podcast. So enjoy, guys. This is Adam Carolla's very own stoned pelican, Mike August.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Mike August. How are you doing today, sir?
Terrific for a Wednesday. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. So people know you because you are, I guess you're sort of in the entertainment industry, right? Would you say?
Sort of, kind of. Yeah, I guess. You know, I've been an agent, still feel like an agent, or was an agent for my entire career. The William Morris agency in the 90s, and then moved into production with Jimmy Kimmel in the 2000s through 2013, 14, 15 or so. And then Adam and I went off and got into the podcast biz, 10 years ago, and are still going strong.
So I guess your real last name is Tamarillo. How do you say your last name?
Tamarello.
Tamarello. All right, sorry.
Yeah, my middle name is August.
Okay, so... And because of what just happened with me on your last name is why you go by August, right?
Exactly. When your last name is misspelled on your diploma, when your own university can't seem to spell your name correctly, you go, it's just too cumbersome to get through life with. Maybe there's an easier way.
Think you chose well.
Yes.
So let's talk about you growing up. Where are you from, Mike?
All over. My dad was a football coach. I was born in Penn State, and then we were at William & Mary, and then we were at Colorado, and then he ended up the head coach at what is now Louisiana Lafayette, in Lafayette, Louisiana. So I went to high school, college, and then law school in Louisiana.
So what made you decide to go to law school?
You know, I came out of college pre-med, and after working 4 years in a hospital, knew I did not want to work in the medical industry. It was just eye-opening. I had no desire to go to med school or any type of medical career. And so I needed to pivot, and I didn't have any business background. You know, I was pre-med. It was all biology and chemistry and science. So I just applied to and got into law school, because law school is very eclectic in how they let people in. You know, they take people from a kind of every discipline of undergraduate. And because I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I needed to get some type of education that like would prepare me to do something other than work in the medical side of things. So I went to law school and came out, 3 years later and took the bar and passed the bar. And the day I finished the bar was the day I left Louisiana and came to California to get involved in showbiz.
So you knew as soon as you got done with law school, you knew that you wanted to get into the entertainment business with that, using that law degree?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I didn't go into law school thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted the education, the experience of it. I'd always kind of had a fondness for the television business. I love television. I love comedy. I love stand-up comedy. So I always had this in the back of my mind, would it be great to work in that business? Didn't know anyone in it. Didn't know how it worked. Just if I could fulfill a dream, as a young man, it would be move to either California or New York. And it was just as general a thought as that. And so I came out of law school and said, well, there's never going to be a freer time in your life. I wasn't married, engaged, right? Didn't have some job that I had to segue into immediately like all my buddies did. Everybody else I went to law school with, they already had been working at law firms and had their jobs. And I had an offer at a firm I clerked for, but just didn't accept it. So I moved west and started, just networking out here in LA and kind of found my way into show business.
So you said before your dad is a coach. So what was your dad's reaction when you switched from, first from pre-med to then law school and then to go to California?
He was just thrilled that I didn't want to become a football coach. Everybody I grew up with, all the kids that, they were the sons of football coaches. I grew up with Jim Mora Jr., in Colorado. His dad was Jim Mora Sr. We were in Colorado, so Jim Mora obviously has had a great coaching career, both of them. I grew up with Chuck Picano, he was the head coach of the Colts, who's now just taking the defensive coordinator job at the Bears. So everybody I knew, that would come out, you would just do what your dad did, right? So he was thrilled because there was no money in coaching. This is in the late 70s, early 80s. ESPN was just a beginning type of thing. It hadn't pumped in the hundreds of millions of dollars that's pumped into college football over the last 20, 25 years to inflate all these crazy salaries. I mean, now you can sit around at the table, your dad can say, what do you want to do, son? Doctor, lawyer, football coach. They're all good. Back then, football coaching was a dead end as far as money. It was a great career. They, football coaches love football. That's why they do it, but nobody did it for money. So he was glad that I was out there looking to do something other than coach football.
Well, that's cool.
That was cool. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, indeed. That support is extremely helpful. Is he still alive?
He had a great coaching career, 25 years, and just had it. He said, he was tired of not making any money and went into business, with a bunch of the alumni down in Louisiana within a year. He had a real estate company, he had an oil field services company, he owned, real estate. I mean, he made a really nice success there. The economy turned down. It all kind of went away. He segued into insurance and has been working in the insurance industry for the last 25 years and is still going strong.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So when you land in LA and you start networking, did you land and not know anybody? Like, did you not have any connections at all?
None. I didn't know anybody. No one. I just showed up here like anybody else. I drove a 5-year-old diesel Audi out here. And I literally lived out of it. I did have one connection down in San Diego, not a connection, a family friend, a football friend, John Beek, who coached with my dad at Penn State and was with the Kansas City Chiefs for years. And at that time in the 80s was the GM of the Denver Broncos. His daughter, Geraldine, lived in San Diego. So Geraldine, was kind of a contact for me just to have a place I was literally kind of living on her sofa while I was kind of networking into Los Angeles, trying to find opportunities to then come up here and live full time and work.
Gotcha. So when you first got there and you decide you're going to be a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer or something to do, in that area with that degree, what was your first step?
I was a little bit down to Loyola Law School and just because I just needed to work. And as a lawyer, I could work, I could support myself just, clerking. And on the board was a note, Disney Corporate Legal needs project attorney. I'm like, wow, that's cool. I could do that probably. So I applied and got into Disney's corporate legal offices, I guess. Me and 3 or 4 other brand new law school graduates, all young attorneys, they're not paying us anything. We worked on Disney's new studio they built down in Orlando, Florida. It's 25 years old now, called the Great Movie Ride. It was Disney MGM's joint venture, Great Movie Ride. And what I did was I was tasked with clearing talent who appeared in the clips in the Great Movie Ride. So I would have to go out and get, say, Tom Cruise for Top Gun, Robert Redford and Paul Newman for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, because all these clips are being played in the movie right. Even though the films are licensed, you still have to get the underlying rights to the images of the artist. They have to sign off for their likeness. And they all did, except for Tom Cruise. And that was, I was interfacing with agents, managers, representation. I wasn't dealing with the talent, obviously, but I was dealing with people who did deal with the talent to get these likenesses, these negotiated, deals. And so I learned in those conversations who makes show business go. And it turned out it is the agencies. That's who I dealt the most with, was the agencies. So I ended up leaving the Walt Disney Company's corporate legal thing and going into essentially the mailroom of the fourth largest agency at the time, a company called Triad. But within a year of me being there, they got purchased by the William Morris Agency, the largest agency in the world. And I was sent from Los Angeles to New York City into the television packaging office of the William Morris Agency in New York City.
Wow. So at this time, do you have a wife or a girlfriend or anything like that?
No, I am totally into just the work. Agenting, much like kind of football coaching, is not really a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a 365, 24/7 thing. It never stops. You're always on. You're always traveling. You're always working, taking calls, doing things. It's not a 9 to 5 existence at all. It's really all encompassing. So again, I had the ability just to pick up and leave LA after being here for a very short time and going to New York. And then I spent the next, 12 years in New York at the William Morris Agency, just, literally signing comedy talent. We had everybody from Jon Stewart, who was an up-and-comer at that time. This is in the early 90s or mid-90s, who, just started working at Comedy Central, never stopped working. And we had Dennis Leary was coming off of MTV, and we put Ray Romano into the Everybody's Raymond deal with David Letterman. We took Kevin James and put him into the King of Queens script, and that turned into a big thing. So I worked with another agent named James Dixon, who's a very kind of legendary guy here in the business. Now he's a manager, a very powerful manager of Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, and obviously Adam Carolla and Jon Stewart. So I took Steve Colbert and Steve Carell out of Chicago. I put them on The Daily Show. So that was kind of my expertise, was, comedy talent and finding vehicles to, either for us to package around them or to put them into.
That sounds immensely intriguing. Was it as fun as it sounds?
Yeah, it was fun. You don't think about it when you're doing it. It was never. What I always say is it never felt like work. I've always felt like I've never worked a day in my life, because I've always been very, very lucky to do what I wanted to do without having to have anybody come and tell me that you can't do that, right? So from that standpoint, I think I've been very, very lucky to have picked this career path for myself. And because I think I've been lucky enough to get involved with really great people like Jimmy and Adam are perfect examples of that, I've been able to kind of extend this existence for, 2.5 decades now. So knock on wood, hopefully it continues for another 2.5 decades.
Knock on wood indeed. So what made you get out of, what made you leave William Morris? Or was that your choice?
I was hired away by the guys who, we sold King of Queens, Kevin James show to a studio, Sony's TriStar studio at the time. And the head of TriStar, very successful producer, development guy, he left there to join Mike Ovitz. Mike Ovitz is, the most famous, probably most successful agent in the history of Hollywood. He built CAA. He left William Morris in the early 70s and created, CAA, which became the preeminent agency in all the business. And then he left CAA in the mid-90s and became the president of Walt Disney with Michael Eisner. And that didn't really work out very well. So he got a quick exit package. And so he turned around at the end of the 90s and created a new management firm that he called Artist Management Group. And it was this kind of super group of talent and artist representation that was going to produce. So it was going to be at once both a artist-based company with a production side that would be a television production end and a film production end. And Eric Tannenbaum from TriStar came in to do the television end, and then Tannenbaum came to me and said, hey, let's have you come and work with us, and we'll develop shows at AMG. So myself and I got James Dixon involved too to leave, and we both left William Morris, I guess 2000, 2001 maybe, and went to AMG and tried our hand at essentially what was considered management at the time.
Wow. How did that go?
Not well. Huge mistake. easily the biggest mistake I ever made, certainly James Dixon ever made. What looked so great on paper, poor Mike Ovitz had spent literally 30 years building the most powerful agency, but he also, in doing it, created a hell of a lot of enemies. I had no idea that he stepped on. So many people wanted to see him not succeed that nobody supported the company. The other agencies would not support the company with talent. The other studios were not, supportive. Financing. I mean, everybody wanted to see this poor guy fail. And we were there for probably a year and a half. I was probably a year and a half. Dixon was probably a year before, essentially we just had to get out because there was just nothing going on. And the whole company folded within 3 years or so. So we both had to kind of reinvent ourselves. And Dixon segued from being an agent into being a manager and built his own management company. He had John Stewart. We have John, got such a great young magnet for other people. So he quickly had Jimmy Kimmel come on, Carolla, Colbert. So he built a nucleus of a management company there. I went to business school. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I literally was just like, wow. Everything we had done for so long, was taken away from us. Like, I didn't want to go back into the agenting end of it, really. I'd done that already. I'd left there for a reason. I wanted to try and do something on a larger scale. So I went to business school, got an MBA at the University of Denver, and then came back out to LA. And just at that time, or during that time, Jimmy had just segued from the Man Show into Jimmy Kimmel Live. So Jimmy said, hey, come on the Kimmel Show and let's just do comedy. Just, bring me comedic talent, comedians we put on the show. We do bits in the show. We think up crazy ways to do pranks and stuff. So it was a lot of fun, as it always is, working with Jimmy and putting comedy on his feet with everybody we know in comedy. And then through that, while I was on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, Howard Stern left broadcast and went to Sirius Satellite Radio in 2005 and created an opportunity then for Adam Carolla and have his own morning radio show. And so then Jimmy said to me, why don't you produce the talent for that show as well? So Adam and I went off and we did the radio show for like 3.5 years, syndicated in 13 markets. We basically took over the western half of the Howard Stern network at the time and held it down. Adam was number one in the mornings in every single market except for LA, which is a very big, nut to crack. And there was already some established players in Kevin and Bean and K-Rock and some other morning shows. So he was never able to give them the number that they needed in LA. So he said, we're going to flip the format on this talk radio station here in Los Angeles, KLSX, it was Howard Station, and we're going to go to music. So you guys are all done, right? So we literally, that was a Friday that we got the word. On Sunday, Jimmy came over to Adams and we knocked out a podcast, not even knowing what a podcast was. Literally, just not even knowing what it was. Just, put down an hour of conversation and, told our radio fan base, hey, we're going to keep trying to connect with you guys through this medium that is called podcasting. That was in 2009. And we just started knocking out shows every day. I mean, Adam still had his CBS radio deal, gave him a year of pay. So he had some, ability to do it while not being paid for it. And I still was on Kimmel. So we just put the whole thing together. His buddy Donnie came in and teched the whole thing. And we turned it into a daily show. Guests come over to Adam's house. And then it got too unwieldy to have guests go to his house after Andy Dick came over and ate all his meatloaf. So we moved to Adam's car warehouse and carved out a studio there, and I've been there now. We're announcing this end of this February, March, is our 10th anniversary of podcasting.
Hey, streetwalkers. Well, you're not literally streetwalkers, but now that I've got your attention, I am Stephen O'Reilly, and I have a podcast called the Bar Star Podcast. And since you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast, I think you should check out my show. It's just as interesting without all the famous people, because Steve has connections that I just do not have. But if you dig podcasts about music, working musicians, and other random shit that I decided to talk about, based around music, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a working musician for the past 30 years, then you need to check out the Bar Star Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, on any platform, and make sure you check out barstarpodcast.com. Now back to the one and only Steve Owens and whatever the hell he was talking about.
Well, that is a lot to unpack, Mike. So first of all, what made you go back and go to business school?
Well, again, just like I go to law school, I now knew, I've been agenting at that point for probably 12, 13 years, but I didn't have any formal business training. I was a lawyer, But, law is, its own discipline. It's not business. I'd never taken a marketing class, an accounting class, an analytics class. I had no idea about marketing data. I mean, I worked in show business, which is surrounded with data. You're very cognizant of marketing campaigns. Work in New York, you're very close to the ad industry. I not only did I read the trades when I was in New York every day, the variety of Hollywood, but I would read Ad Age, which is all about the business of advertising and marketing and promotion and all that type of thing. So I was really interested in that particular part of show business, because I've always been on the talent side, but I've always wanted to know more and understand more about the business side of how media works. So going to business school was a great eye-opener for me, because I just got for the first time basic understanding of how business works. I couldn't read a P&L. And now, I'm the CFO of Adam Carolla's digital media company that did $7.5 million in gross ad sales last year. So all that education, that postgraduate education in business was very helpful in kind of the next evolution, so that when the opportunity to build a business came along in the form of the podcasting, I was prepared for it. I don't think I would have been as effective, I think, as I've been had I not, spent a year knocking out an MBA at the University of Denver.
It sounds like you've made some pretty good decisions with, not just sticking with whatever shitty, boring career you ended up in, and you just kind of, made your own luck and chose your own path and forged ahead. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think, as long as you just take the attitude that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I literally had an implosion of my career after, building all this talent, all these relationships, all this success, and trying to segue that from the William Morris agency into a management situation and having it all completely fail. Left William Morris with what we thought would be 10 clients and a nice book of business. And after a year in the management side, having it all go away, losing all those relationships, all that talent, and having to start completely over with nothing, right? And just saying, you know what? I bet on myself once, and kind of just went out and networked and found a way. I'm just going to do it again. You don't really dwell. I think that's the worst thing you can do. I think you have to just move forward every day with the next thing, focus on the next thing, and arm yourself as much as you can with as much education, as much information as you can. Talk to people and be open. And then, most importantly, don't be afraid to take on things that may not be the most lucrative to begin with. I started in Walt Disney, got paid less than nothing, right? When I came out and went back to work for Jimmy Kimmel Live, out of business school, making a tenth of what I used to make as an agent, but I never worried about the money. I never even thought about it. It was just all a means to an end.
Interesting. Now, for everybody, including myself, what is the difference between a manager and an agent?
Essentially, an agent is a tool of information. What the agencies do is represent clients, and they're out there every day talking to all the employers in the business, the studios, the networks, the production companies, whether it's advertisers, whether it's concert promoters, whether it's the digital space. They're out there attempting to find work opportunities to bring back to their clients, right? What a manager does is works in tandem with the client, evaluating those opportunities. The manager is marketing and an agent is sales. A manager, when you do marketing, essentially you are designing a product that somebody wants to buy. When you're an agent, you are selling that product. And so the manager works with the client, essentially managing the career and trying to help the client create an offer that people want to buy into, whatever that particular client's discipline is, or if those clients have multiple disciplines. So the manager essentially sits at the top of the pyramid with the client, filtering in everything that comes up from the bottom, from the agents, from the business itself, from other promotional opportunities and PR. They're managing all the aspects of the client's career. And then, of course, the other large distinction from a legal standpoint is agents are prohibited by their guild franchise agreements with the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild from producing. Managers can produce. They can produce their clients' projects, right? Productions. Oftentimes you'll see many managers have production credits, production fees on their clients' productions. Agents are prohibited from doing that. They broke that up in the 50s with Lew Wasserman. The great Lew Wasserman, who people I guess know ran MCA Universal, built it, was at first an agent. Before Mike Ovitz, first big agent in the 50s was Lew Wasserman. He built up a huge agency, and then he segued into production. And the feds came in and said, you can't be on both sides of the ledger, because you can't represent the talent and then produce productions that they go into because it's a conflict of interest on a show that you're producing, because the more you pay the talent, the less there is for you. It's inherently a conflict of interest. And so that's why the agencies are limited to just representing the talent into the business and not actually undertaking the business of production.
Very cool. Thank you for that history lesson. That was very...
Sure. It's a little granular, but that's,
Well, sometimes you got to get granular to understand, what the difference is, especially between those two. So back in 2009, Adam was not syndicated in San Antonio, which is where I am. And I was listening to a podcast back then called The Don and Drew Show. And it was, just a couple, just a husband and wife, like in Wisconsin or something. And they announced, on their, whatever their episode was, they were super excited because Adam had said, I guess on his last day on Friday at the radio station, he had said, starting Monday, we're going to do a podcast. And so because of that, I've been able to be there since, episode 1. It's been a wild and fun ride. So thank you for your part in that. I really appreciate it.
You are most welcome. You may be listener number 1 for all we know. You may be one of one. One of them, now a million, but you could have been one of one. Well, I think we opened with 100,000. I think that was the number of listeners. When we first put it out there, the number we got back was 100,000 downloads.
So whose idea was it originally to make that leap and just take this gamble on a podcast, whatever the heck a podcart is?
Right, exactly. It was Adam's buddy Donnie. Because you're OG, you remember Donnie.
Donnie Mizrahi.
Donnie Mizrahi, the great Donnie Mizrahi. Donnie said to Adam, hey, man, there's this thing called podcasting. And what really backed it up was when we were on KLSX, the radio station here in Los Angeles, on top of the terrestrial broadcast listenership, we were told by the station that we were streaming 2 million listeners, I think, monthly to the Adam Carolla Show online. So they were just putting the radio show in digital form on the station's website, and people are listening to it off the site. And, there's a thing called Alexa that monitors traffic on websites. And during the time that Adam Carolla was on KLSX was a top 100,000 website, which is, doesn't sound that great, but, there's millions of websites. And because of the amount of streaming that he was creating listenership through the radio show, he literally got them ranked, incredibly high for a one-off radio station. So we knew there was the ability to reach people through this new digital medium, and we didn't have a radio show anymore. So this podcast thing seemed like the next best thing to try and at least hold them. The whole idea was, let's hold them, not knowing what to do with them, certainly not being able to monetize it, but hold them because Adam's like, I need that currency to get my next radio deal. Because there's in any business, he'd been on Loveline for 10 years. He'd had his own radio show for 3.5. As soon as he left radio, other people started calling to see, would he do this? Would he do that in radio? And he ended up digging what was going on with the podcast so much, the freedom of it, the allure of having your own kind of radio station, for lack of a better word. We have in Carolla Digital now is our own setup that produces and syndicates now 22 podcasts, many, many platforms out there. That was so exciting to him that he, as we kept doing it, he turned down other opportunities, like in San Francisco, a station up there, a very famous radio station. I forgot what it's called now. I'm not from that area, but they wanted him to move to San Francisco and be their morning guy. He turned that down. At some point, like 3 or 4 years into the podcast, DirecTV came to him and said, we want to do what they do with Dan Patrick in the mornings, with Dan Patrick's radio show that they turned into a television show. We want to do a late night show that is both a radio show and a television show with you. And we got way far down the road on doing that deal. That deal was essentially done, except for the fact at the time that Adam just needed to sign it, he just said, you know what? I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to have to be on their schedule and deliver when they tell me when to deliver and be here for a promotional thing and there for another thing. I don't want to be an employee anymore. I've had too much of a good time being my own guy, enjoying the autonomy of it, even though the money was very, very good, certainly better than what he was doing in podcasting, which just tells you how much he really digs it. He walked away from, multiple 7 figures. But that was, the whole impetus, I think, that it's, he's all in. I say it all the time. He's all in on podcasting. He does it to the exclusion of everything else.
Certainly the most successful brand in podcasting, hands down.
Sure.
Did you say that Carolla Digital produces 22 podcasts?
Yeah, we put out 22 shows. Adam personally does 15 podcasts a week, just himself. Then we have another 7 with other talent that we do as well.
That's fantastic. Well done.
I don't think people realize that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. All he does is podcasting. He goes to his warehouse every day, and he does an average of about 3 shows a day, about 15 a week. That's how the only way you can pile up this type of revenue is you got to traffic a lot of ads. Mark Maron does 2 podcasts a week. He allows 4 ads in his show. Even if you're selling those ads for super premium, you're not going to make what Adam can make from trafficking 100 ads a week,
Right.
It's an incredible amount of ad space that we, create. He creates a tremendous amount of ad inventory avails through doing 15 shows a week. There's a lot of opportunity to keep advertisers coming into the shows.
That will do it.
That will do it.
So when the podcast first started and you guys were doing it out of Adam's house, that was the house that had the car elevator, right? Like the car up in the office?
Yeah. There's a lot.
And I think probably also besides the meatloaf, I think one of the reasons that decided to move it away from the house is, didn't Andy Dick hide a cigar in a ficus or some shit?
he left it. He left it. I think he had an unlit, a half smoked cigar, and he stuffed it behind. I think Adam found it behind a picture or something. It just that smell of stale cigar smoke, right?
Absolutely.
It's a horrible smell. And when it doesn't go away, because you don't know where the cigar is, right? You're like, I got this smell and I can't find it. It's pervasive and I can't find the source of it. It took him like a week to find it. It was so funny. So yeah, that really did inspire him to go, I got to get out of this house. I can't let the talent in the house anymore.
What an odd thing to have to deal with, like you've been in this business for quite some time, entertainment, and then long about 40 years old, all of a sudden you discover that you can't trust these crazy people in your house. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's all novel because whoever produces anything out of their house, that alone was an insane thing to do. You have Seth MacFarlane's and Joel McHale's, coming over. It was fun and novel, but at some point, we always said we need to put a professional face on the business if we're going to do this as a business. And this, again, before we were getting paid, this is, Adam made the investment. He goes, you know what, we're going to build a studio. I'll build it myself. I'm just going to carve it out of this car warehouse. I'm going to kick the cars out. I'm going to put the space in there. He and Donnie wired it all up, and off we went. Because we didn't get paid. I think it took a year and maybe a half before we got first real taste of significant, what I call significant, which is some advertising dollars. I mean, it took years for it to ball up into anything that you would call a living,
Right. And for like the first 10 or 12 months or something, he was not allowed to make money on the podcast, right?
Well, there was no money to be made. He was being paid by CBS in the first year that we podcast, so he had at least some income to fund the production of it. And then what happened, CBS saw that he was dedicated to it. They said, well, hey, maybe we can come in and be your advertising sponsor, your advertising sales organization, because you don't have one. You don't have any ads. Let's see if we can sell some ads. We're like, sure, great, take a run. And I remember the first, they've knocked around for like 3 or 4 months. Is it Chevy? Because that's what we had in radio. We had big advertising. Is it? It's Adam and Eve dildos. So our first advertiser was Adam and Eve dildos.
Hilarious.
The very first ad.
That is
fantastic. Happy to have them. Fantastic. Not luckily, I mean, as the show got stronger and the advertisers came on and it got more expensive, they eventually we got a little too rich for their blood, but we were very happy to have them.
Well, absolutely. That is a definite, first brick, to building that massive structure. So, hats off to them. Now, I know that I have kept you for a decent amount of time. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about the 10th anniversary event.
10 years, hundreds of guests, millions of downloads, one podcast.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on, mandate. Get it on.
The 10-year anniversary podcast. March 10th, Peterson Auto Museum. Mahalo for a decade of getting it on.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Yeah, we're very happy to, celebrate our 10th anniversary of podcasting. It's going to be an actual audience event Sunday, March 10th here in Los Angeles at the beautiful Peterson Auto Museum, which is this Forbes magazine has listed it as one of the top museums in the world. Obviously, it houses crazy cars because California's got such car culture here. But they also have a lot of other things. So we're going to do 3 events that day. We're going to do a car event in the afternoon, hosting our listeners to bring their cars in. Jay Leno is going to be out there, along with Adam and Mike Brewer from a show called Wheeler Dealer, which is a big international show about cars. So they'll be bringing their cars out. Adam will bring his Paul Newman 935 Le Mans winning Porsche. Jay's going to bring a super cool car. Mike Brewer's bringing his 911 classic car out as well. So we'll have a whole afternoon for the car crowd. Then in the cocktail hour, we're going to screen Adam's latest documentary, which is a film called Uppity, which is the story of the first black Indy and NASCAR driver named Willie T. Ribbs. It's this great kind of Jackie Robinson tale of how, a young black guy from San Jose just decided he wanted to be a race car driver and drove his way all the way to becoming the first black driver at Indy. So it's a really great story. It's got amazing characters. I mean, this guy was knocking up with Muhammad Ali, and Don King was his manager, and he raced against Bruce Jenner, and, ended up Bill Cosby sponsored him when he went to Indy, literally wrote the check that got him into the Indianapolis 500. So the whole story's backdropped against all these great characters during his life. Paul Newman got him his first shot as a race car driver, got him his first paid gig with Budweiser. So Willie has had a fascinating and great life, and it makes for a great documentary. We currently got that option at Showtime that may turn into a series. And then at 8 o'clock that night, we're going to do the 10th anniversary Adam Carolla live show, and Jimmy Kimmel is going to host that show. I don't know how we got him, but we managed to find a way to get Jimmy come out and support Adam. So we'll have a really fun 10th anniversary show for the fans and for the Adam Carolla Show.
That sounds like a fucking blast. Where can people get tickets, Mike?
People can get tickets. You can go to adamcarolla.com and hit the events page. Hurry. The 10th anniversary show at Jimmy's almost sold out. There's still tickets available for the screening. And if you want to come out for the afternoon event, which is an unlimited event, I've got limited seating on the podcast and the screening because of the venues. But for the live car event, unlimited. We've got literally the entirety of the Peterson Museum to use for that. And that'll be with Adam and Jay Leno and Mike Brewer. So if you're local in Southern California, if you want to come in for this, these tickets aren't even expensive. I mean, it's a $35 ticket to come out and hang with these guys. So go to the Adam Carolla events page, click on, buy a ticket.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Now, I have been to, I guess, both of the studios. I guess you're still calling.
Oh, you have? Great.
Yeah, sure. I've been there a few times. And you guys really, you said earlier you guys wanted to put a professional face on it. And boy, have you. Those 2 buildings are amazing. Well done and hats off.
Yeah, that's all Adam. He's an artist who can physically build, which is a very kind of rare combination. So if you would have seen those spaces before and after, I mean, it is night and day. If the people who sold him those buildings in the condition they sold them into him would walk into them now, they wouldn't even recognize them. They literally would go, I don't even recognize what this building was. He's done so much unbelievable work with them. It's a tribute to his creativity and his ability because he did it himself. I mean, when I say did it himself, he put every rivet in. He hung every post, every light, sawed holes in the ceilings and made skies. I mean, he did it all himself. He is his own labor. He is a Renaissance man. It's quite amazing.
He certainly is. Mike, August, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your obviously busy schedule and hanging out with me today.
No problem, Steve. Thanks for being a loyal fan of the Adam Carolla Show and spreading the message. And hopefully we can have this conversation in another 10 years for our 20th.
Heck yeah, that'd be awesome. Not only do I preach the gospel, I've actually booked a couple of guests on the show through you. So thank you for that.
That's fantastic.
That's
thank
really
you.
Cool. All right,
we're always looking for great guests.
I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate this. I've been wanting to get you on here for quite some time, and thank you for making it happen. And everybody, go check out the 10th anniversary event on March 10th.
Yes.
Go to adamcarolla.com and click on the events page and get some of those tickets, man. It's going to be a ball.
Come out and see us. It'll be a great day. Come out to L.A. for a day. It's the only place in the country that's probably above 32. So
yeah, no shit. All right. Thanks, Mike. You have a great rest of your day.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
10 years, hundreds of guests, millions of downloads, one podcast.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on, Mandy. Get it on.
The 10-year anniversary podcast. March 10th, Peterson Auto Museum. Mahalo for a decade of getting it on.
Hey guys, this is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.